What they need to do with the Raiders, and more than anything, is stay healthy. They've had terrible luck with injuries, particularly the defensive side. They've used a lot of draft choices on defense, but they haven't had those guys out there together for an extended period of time. That's what they need. They need Abram and Mullen and Damon Arnett and Crosby and Farrell, and then draft some linebackers that can cover and tackle in space. I think Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah would be a nice pick coming out of Notre Dame. But they need another linebacker or two. The offensive line should be okay. Obviously, get Ruggs up to speed, get him to keep improving, and with Jacobs and with Carr and Waller and that group. Yeah, add another receiver and add a couple linebackers and maybe a safety to help out Jonathan Abram. I thought Trayvon Merrick from TCU would make sense, but they're not that far away. I mean, they are not that far away. If they can get some good luck on the injury front, have a solid draft, I think they can certainly be a wild card team next year.
John, that was Mel Kiper Jr. on our podcast.
No big deal.
You can check that podcast out down in the description below to hear the full conversation.
Do it now.
All right, Middlecoff. Also like this video. All right, Middlecoff. Did Mel Kiper just tell us everything the Raiders are going to do? He just got done telling us how he talks to John Gruden and Mike Mack all the time. And then he just named a couple players and told us all their needs.
Yeah, and then we looked, we did a little digging. Daniel Jeremiah's big board has them around that 16-17 where the Raiders are picking, kind of in their range, guy.
Trayvon Moehrig is 16th on DJ's big board. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is 17th on his big board. So that's right where
I also think, in fairness to Mayock, to Kiper, talking about Gruden and Mayock's team, like, what do they need? They need defensive speed, tackling, coverage. They need it all. Right? There is not a position on the defense, whether it's the front seven or the back four, that if they upgraded, they drafted a player where anyone would say anything. Now, probably, I watched some of Mayock's talk a couple weeks ago. He just did like his 30-minute, I think every GM has to talk around the combine. So a lot of guys just did it from their, from their facility. They have invested a lot with the defensive backfield. Now, whether those guys are good or not, we don't know. But Arnett, I give the kid a lot of credit. Breaks his thumb. He's getting concussed all the time. That guy he's tough. Remember, he had that tackle and he landed on his broken thumb. And I remember just on my couch, like getting queasy. That had to hurt so bad. There's something to work with. That guy's tough. Trayvon Mullen, he definitely has the size. He got abused a little bit. But those two guys are going to be the corners. Jonathan Abram, I don't know if he's any good. I don't know if he can function in today's NFL, but they did use a first-round pick on him. He's going to get this year with Gus Bradley, right? So they got three guys in their defensive backfield. Every other player, beside probably Max Crosby, is fighting for a position, right? Like Cleveland Farrell's going to play, but if they just trade Trent Brown, do they go sign Yannick Ngakoue? Do they also sign Melvin Ingram, right? He might be a backup, right? Linebackers, everything's on the table. Their linebackers are terrible. So their defense, they need to improve the guys, the young guys they already have, the DBs. Max Crosby needs to keep getting better. Cleveland Farrell just needs to become a solid player, kind of what he is. He's never going to live up to the billing of his pick. And then they need to add, through the draft and through free agency, impact players. Speed, to me, speed and power. They just feel bleh and slow, and no one's ever around the ball. When you're a linebacker, I'll steal this from Michael Lombardi, and he's right. When your linebackers are slow, your defense is slow. I'll never forget, no one will, that when Bowman and Willis, it just felt like the Niners were shot out of a cannon. Even though they had Justin Smith, Ray McDonald, those guys weren't really flying around.
Right.
But because your two linebackers make every play, forever, Seattle, it's like, God, Seattle's defense not that great. But whenever I watch them, I'm like, God, they're better than you think. Because KJ Wright and Bobby Wagner make like 20 tackles a game.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The Eagles, for example, always get a lot of shit because they never draft linebackers, and their defense always feels slow, even though their D-line's good, because their linebackers are nowhere to be found. Linebackers change the game, man. Look at Fred Warner, right? What he's done to the Niners defense. Even last year with all those injuries, the Niners defense always felt good because Fred got 17 tackles.
Well, John, here's the deal. What Mel listed, he said a couple of linebackers, another receiver. You got to get Ruggs better. You need all those defensive guys he named healthy. Maybe another safety for Abram, right? These are Mel Kiper. You're right. Anybody
could Abram be a linebacker, like a hybrid linebacker, maybe?
Yeah, maybe. But anybody that watches the Raiders might come to that same conclusion. But we know that Mel is not just a guy that watches a team from afar, right? These are educated comments he's making. But to your point, so the day we talked to Mel, they trade Trent Brown, clear a bunch of space. They owed him a lot of money. He made a lot of money.
Yeah.
So you said something really important, right? Like, are they going to go spend are they going to use some of that money now on a pass rusher, which feels right. Like, the Raiders can't totally do this in the draft. They want to win now. They've got take a big swing on a big guy. They've got cash to spend. Remember, Field Yates tweeted this on Monday. The Raiders' 2019 free agency trade ads: Antonio Brown, 3 years, $50 million, cut before the season. Tyrell Williams, 4 years, $44 million, cut after 2 years and 42 catches. LaMarcus Joyner, 4 years, $42 million, cut after 2 years, no picks. Trent Brown, 4 years, $66 million, available via trade is what he wrote at the time. Now he's been traded. So
missed a ton of games with it felt like he was injured, but it always felt like Gruden didn't think he was injured. It got weird, right?
Yeah, it got weird. Yeah. But what I would say is, like, okay, we know, to your point, and this has been the case.
Those guys were good. I mean, Antonio Brown was a superstar. Terrell Williams, in fairness to him, he got hurt. Like, I think he's good. Trent Brown is good. I just felt like he hated Gruden or something. LaMarcus Joyner sucked for the Raiders. I remember when they signed him, my buddies, like, in the league texting, they're like, I like this guy. Yeah. Now, all those guys just sucked and got cut.
I'm just saying, expect this. This is your point, right? It's like, get ready for this again, some version of this again. Start big names, star players, big money, go get them, let's win. But
on paper, going into 19, that looked like a good crew of ads. Damn, you got AB, Terrell Williams, and Trent Brown to add to your offense? That was big time.
Yeah.
Guy, he had just been the starting left tackle for the Patriots in the Super Bowl, and Antonio Brown had just had a 6-year stretch of arguably the greatest production in the history of the league. Now
you were buying high on a guy that Shanahan and Belichick had sold on. Belichick always willing to buy back, though.
He always buys back for way cheaper. It's actually pretty genius. He like buys the stock for $10. He lets it go for $50, and then he gets it back for like $18. You know, it's incredible. They just have to find a way. Because here's what we'd say about all those guys. I'd siphon out AB, but like, they were not equipped to handle him. Clearly, right? It was a disaster. Those guys on paper were really talented. Whoever they sign now, if I say, hey, guy, they just signed Yannick Ngakoue and Richard Sherman. Let's just say those two names. You'd be like, Richard can help be kind of a veteran guy for Abram and their DBs. Yannick, immediately impact player. And let's say they gave Yannick 20 and they just give Richard like 1 year 8. So you're like, boom, just those two guys. On paper, it's going to feel like 19. And that's how the pushback. Eric Mangini said this perfectly the other day. He's like, free agency is anything but free. But the names are usually, because unlike the draft, once you get past like the top 10, I mean, Mel's given us names with the two Raider guys. Like, you and I watch a ton of college football. I was like, who? TCU guy? But in free agency, it's like, damn, you just signed Allen Robinson. Every guy, if you play fantasy football, you know a lot of these names. And it's actually probably more exciting than the draft after like the first round because you don't know any of those guys. But in free agency, you're like, damn, we just landed 3 dudes. They've been to like 7 career Pro Bowls. And then I think 33% of free agents equal what they've been before. Because I'd say usually there's a reason like that team is letting the guy go. And it's just in football age, right? Any guy over 30. But Yannick is a guy that's going to get a ton of money. You know, he's been now like 3 teams in a year. I'm not saying he's not a good player, but someone's going to give him a shitload of cash. Like, I'll give you an example. Leonard Williams, who got franchise tag today. He was headed toward a path like he was just going to be a free agent. And then remember, the Giants traded the Jets. They got him. And this first year, I was like, I don't know, but they picked up his 5th-year option. And then all of a sudden this year, he just had a fantastic year. He became kind of like, I think, what people thought he was going to become when he came out of USC. And what happens? He's not available because the Giants are like, this guy's a good player.
Right.
That's ideally, like, when I see guys get tagged, it's like, whether you want to keep him or not, you know this guy's really valuable. When you just go, I'm just letting him walk, you just got to be careful, right? Because I'll give you it. If the Raiders or the Niners just signed Hunter Henry, everyone would be like, damn, they've got Hunter Henry to go with Waller or Kittle? Hunter Henry? But it's like, well, why is he available? Right? He's been hurt a lot. He's not as productive as you think. And listen, I'm not trying to poo-poo the excitement as fun as free agency will be with all these names, but I do think we just know, because I gave the Raiders and Mayock and Gruden a ton of credit for that class. It was a disaster. No picks. Just say that out loud.
But here's what I will say. I think one thing was known about that class, and I don't want to be revisionist history here. You knew AB was a wild card as a teammate.
I'm not even counting him.
You knew Trent Brown just there at the time. We said Kyle Shanahan and Bill Belichick sold on this guy. Now Kyle, you could argue, got it wrong because Bill got a good year out of him. But the point is,
he became the highest paid right tackle.
They both knew not to pay him.
Yeah,
they both decided that, right?
Yes.
So I think that question did exist on some level. It's not revisionist history to say that it did exist on some level.
Yeah, but Terrell Williams and Joyner reviewed like that.
Yeah, but
Joyner was a good player for the Rams, and Williams was a great player, really good player for the Chargers.
The point is not that it'll work or won't work. The point is, and this was your prediction, they're going to do something like that again.
Yeah. I think that's a good example. You bring up those 3 or 4 names because I could see just them having like 3 names that pop. Because the one thing with Gruden, right, he doesn't want Guy Haberman, the backup for the Ravens. Like he's going to want Richard Sherman. He's going to want Melvin Ingram. The thing with Gruden, he talks and acts and then backs it up. Like it's just he is not
the pattern
talking
exists.
out of one side of his mouth. Like it's pretty clear who he's going to go after, right?
Yeah, Mel just told us.
Yeah, but at the draft, like we don't know. Wouldn't it be surprising if
guys in the draft,
I'd expect Richard Sherman to be on the Raiders.
Would not surprise me, and I wouldn't hate it.
No, I don't hate it either. But there's a chance like Richard just gets hurt week 2 and
don't
he plays.
Love him playing on turf half the season.
No, and maybe they think he could like kind of play a hybrid safety corner.
They could use. I mean,
they're
much further along than the Niners were when they signed Richard Sherman. But they could use Richard Sherman.
Well, if you were Mayock and Gruden, you'd go, we got these 2 corners. They're both 22, 23 years old. We need them to become really good players. Isn't Richard worth a little more to them just to have him around, whether he's playing or not?
That's what I'm saying. Even though they are further along than the Niners were at the time, that role still, it does feel like their defense could use that guy.
I think they need it desperately.
They do need him on the field to fill that role, though.
Yeah, which last year, he got banged up. Do you think it's going to be difficult for Richard probably at this point in time in his career just to stay healthy? Just because I think older DBs, it's your like quick twitch muscles are the things you pull, the calves, the quads, and it's like you can't play at 75% like you can like Richie Incognito. It's like, is he 100%? Is he 50? You don't even notice. But with a DB, it's like, and Richard's already not a speed guy. That's where I think you could justify like, listen, Richard, we'll overpay, but we're not even counting on you to play, even though we'd like you to play. They just need him to be around. I think he's pretty valuable to the Raiders. If they view those guys need a lot of help for not a non-coach, just a guy that they can look up to, right?
But it's not risk-free because, as Mel said, the injuries have really derailed them. And Sherman's injury was a part of the Niners' derailment last year.
Well, I mean, Arnett felt like had 7 concussions and a broken hand, right? Abram missed his whole rookie season. Last year, remember, he missed a Corona game. He kind of got screwed on the one.